Alright folks, welcome. So this is a completely unscheduled live. I just been working a lot on roller coasters lately, and I thought it was finally time to just kind of show you guys the most recent design I've ended up with. And guys, I've had a lot of comments, folks trying to build these things saying, they're not working. It's not your fault, folks. The roller coaster I built when I put my video out, that thing was working beautifully. I was playing with it. Actually, that day that I recorded the video, I was running it all day. Logging out didn't bother it. It never derailed. It derailed once or twice, but it was so rare, like, the design was pretty solid. Matter of fact, you probably saw in that other video, I had a couple of arms sticking out to the side here, like as a derailment safety. And that was because it actually did derail one time, so that's actually why I put those safeties on there. But after that, I only had one more derailment. All those other times I ran that coaster, never a problem. And I think the derailments were my fault. I knew on the more aggressive turns I should have slowed down, but I was pushing it. So, it is what it is. So anyway, guys, long story short, a couple of days after I made that video, updates came out. Then the dynamic foundations were just acting terrible. They were swaying way out to the sides, and it just wasn't behaving that way before. I was getting a nice, smooth ride. I made some modifications for it, build started breaking, it was just a nightmare. And then every time I finally got a working model, folks, without fail, update, and then it would break again. So, every single time I sat down to try to do a tutorial video, that's the kind of problems I was facing. So I just wanted to let you all know I have not been putting this off on purpose. I just really wanted to get a good, solid design out there, in hopes that we were going to have some kind of workable machine, to use either in sandbox or survival. Of course, sandbox, it's more of a fun park application, messing around application. Survival, though, guys, these skins can be absolutely huge. You see I have a monorail system built way up there, and that's just straight track. It goes a little bit up and down in elevation, but for the most part, it's not a roller coaster. So, for survival application, this is big, because you can curve the track, you can go to caves, you can connect all your bases, biomes, farming spots, you name it. You can make that track go anywhere. The only thing is, guys, I got it to where it finally doesn't derail with this tire system here, and I know it's a nightmare looking at the thing, but it works, and it holds the track beautifully. Actually, I've tried to make this thing derail even, where my more aggressive curves are in the track. It won't derail, but it takes damage. So every once in a while, I'll start seeing those yellow damage bars showing up, and they're all over the place. They're random, it seems. I think sometimes it's the tires. I think sometimes it's these wood builds. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and kind of run the track right now and just kind of show you what I'm dealing with. And then what we'll do is when we come back here, I'll just go ahead and build you one, just so you can have some kind of an instruction manual out there for the time being. Now, guys, there's a lot of talk on the internet right now about this great big, Lego Fortnite update coming up. And folks, I'm told the worlds are going to change. It's just like a lot of stuff changing. I don't know what that's going to mean. I don't know if this world's going to be obsolete. I don't know if this world's just going to look different next time I log in. I think that update is this Friday or, this weekend sometime. I'm not really sure the exact date. You're going to have to Google that to be sure. But, whatever the case may be, I know this works now. So I thought, okay, let's just go ahead and do it live, let's show it working. Hopefully it'll start taking damage here pretty soon, so I can show you that. And guys, it's acting stuttery right now because I've got a big build site here, so yeah, it takes like a second, I guess, for the game to think it through. But as you can see, so far so good. These are not real aggressive curves in the track, On the non-aggressive curves, it does pretty good without damage. But now I'm getting into the more aggressive curves in the track. So yeah, there it is. There's the damage. So what I'll do is, later on in this tutorial, I'll kind of show you the differences in the track. And I'll show you kind of like where that cutoff is on how aggressive you can make the curves. Now, not to say it won't take damage ever. You might see a damage streak here and there, but I haven't actually broken builds. With exception of one time, I went and turned it on and it started breaking builds within like 10 seconds. And guys, that was just because my game hadn't loaded in right. And I didn't know that, at the time. So anyway, I fixed it. I tried to run it again. Within 10 seconds, builds broke again. I was like, wait, something isn't right. So, there wasn't an update or anything. I had just logged off for about 5 minutes. So anyway, I fixed it again, and then I logged off, logged back in, and then it was fine. So, if you do run this coaster and it starts, just busting builds within 10 seconds or so, just, fix it. log out, you know, maybe restart your computer, restart your Xbox, whatever you're playing on, and then, you know, log back in. And the reason, guys, I say restart your machine is because sometimes, you know, not always, but sometimes the game will kind of, you know, there will be some memory left over or something where the game thinks there's still, like a build there, even though you've broken that build, but like there's just a little speck of data left in the RAM or something somewhere where the game's like, wait a minute, you know, there's something here. So even though you don't see the build there, the game is still going to kind of act like that. That'll cause breakage and whatnot. In fact, that happened to me one time, and, you know, all this stuff started breaking. I started freaking out, and I'm looking, and there was like a lot more tires in there than should have been. There was like, you know, 8 of these large tires. I was like, wait, what is happening right now? So that was the only thing I could think of, you know. I had broken those 4 tires, replaced them, and, you know, somehow the game kind of still thought they were there. So again, guys, if you're having these issues and you need to restart the game, just take that extra step, you know, restart your device as well. Okay, so you kind of saw the damage patterns there and stuff. I'm going to try to sit in the back seat here so you guys can kind of see now on the return trip. See if we can see any more damage popping up or whatnot. But the thing I like about this design, and the reason I'm working so hard on this, is because I've got an open end on the left-hand side here. You can see it goes through these support beams. And that's kind of key, because, you know, you need something to hold the track up if you're going to have a completely enclosed and looped track. So, you know, you have to find a way to basically have an open side up there on the wheel carriage. Otherwise, you know, it just won't be able to clear builds, so holding it up. And this thing's actually running pretty smooth tonight, guys, and this is hit and miss. Sometimes I run this thing, and it's just like damage. And then other times, like right now, I might see it, you know, a couple of times, nothing terrible. But again, I haven't actually broken builds. But the threat of build breakage is still there. So what I'm going to do, there's a spot right there. Okay, I'm getting into those more aggressive curves now, which is where this damage is going to. So yeah, guys, I'm going to show you how I kind of like blocked and braced the carriage so that even if you actually have a build break out, you'll be able to simply replace the build that broke out. You know, you might have to pop a tire to get the build back in there. Remember, sometimes the builds don't want to go in close to tires. So, you know, you might have to pop a tire so you can make that work, but that's no big deal. You know, it beats rebuilding the entire roller coaster carriage, that's for sure. So, yeah, I'm going to show you all that here as soon as we get back. But as you guys can see, I ran this thing back and forth. It's actually working pretty good right now, so we had a pretty good run there. And honestly, I was thinking about just, you know, staying on live until I actually broke a build so I could show you how I repair it. But before I actually got on live with you, I was running the coaster back and forth, and I couldn't get a build to break. I must have run it like 6-8 times back and forth. And it was just not going to happen. So I figured, okay, well, I mean, that's a good thing. But, you know, if you want to show breakage and repair, I guess I'll just have to break the build myself and show you guys, you know, that way. All right, folks. So this thing, you know, it feels good. It feels like a proper roller coaster. Like I said, derailment is not an issue with this design whatsoever. The worst case scenario is you're going to have a broken build. But just to show you what I mean by block and brace here. I must have dumped all my torches. That's awesome. Where's the sun when you need it, right? I'm going to forget that campfire is there and then try to drive the roller coaster, and it's not going to work, so yeah. I called it, and I called it first. Alright, folks, so here's the carriage. Now, I know this looks super confusing, you know, and I'm going to show you the build stages here in just a second. But, the main thing I wanted to point out is this build right here. So basically, I connected the 2 carriage arms. This way, you know, if the crossover beams up here, one or both of those fail, which I've had happen, then, you know, all this entire assembly falls off on the right-hand side. It takes forever to build. Not only that, when you lose that side of the assembly, you know, that can cause the coaster to just completely come right off the track. This way, you know, with these 2 block and brace beams that I've got, even if something bad happens to one arm or the other, these builds keep everything together. So, you know, it'll be the same, just the build that would be missing. That would otherwise have been connecting everything. So that's good because it also keeps your roller coaster on the track. So, you know, again, that's just a real quick, easy repair process. You pop a couple of balloons on there, bam, bam, you know, it lifts it up, place your tires, pop balloons, back on track, and you can continue on mission. Another thing, too, guys, if you're going to use these things in survival, that is critical. You've got to have the block and brace here, because especially if you're running treasure chests. And I've had it happen. The last thing you want to see is this thing completely exploding, and you had a whole bunch of treasure chests sitting there. Not a good day. Alright guys, I have talked long enough about all this fun stuff. I'm going to go ahead and bust these fires just so you know I don't forget. And then what we're going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and replicate. Now I've got 2 carriages. So they're both, you know, same design. I did do one thing different. I noticed this crossover beam was prone to damage because I had it too low. You can't really see it. It's the one in between the 2 top tires up here. But notice how low that is. The problem is it was scraping track. So, you know, it's only like 1 or 2 bumps or whatever, nudges above the track there. Whereas this one, you can see I've got a little bit more clearance there with that lower more build right there where my cursor is pointing and the top of the track. So that's actually saved a lot of damage points right there. So again, guys, you know, I'm working the best with what I've got here. But without any further ado, let's just go ahead and get to work. Now I'm building this in sandbox. I know that makes a lot of you guys angry. You know, you're like, you know, you don't build this thing the way I have to use stairs, yada yada yada. I get it, guys. Just go ahead and build your stairs and, you know, try to follow along the best you can. The other thing that irritates folks, and I understand this too, is these builds here are not the same sizes as what you're going to have in survival. So what I'll kind of show you here real quick is the spacing as if I were doing this in survival. So I'm still going to have the ability of flight, you know, forgive me for that, but at least I'll be able to show you, you know, build counts, and then you can kind of space them out yourself, and it'll be accurate. All right, so what we need to do is make a solid platform. Now, this is one of those, you know, sandbox only builds that I was talking about. So, you know, that's a tall pillar there. You can see that that's the spacing on that. So that's the beam holding the track up, and that's level. So that is 6 builds tall. So, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You guys get the idea. So that being said, that'll help you space that a little bit. Now, this doesn't have to be perfect. As long as while you're building your coaster, the support arms stick up and over your track, you're golden. Alright, folks, I'm going to use that exact same build. Now, to center that, notice there's a 1 peg space there that the track sits on. So, you know, to make sure that we're going to be in the middle, you know, in this support track we're going to lay, that's got to match, which is easy to do. Just remember that 1 peg. And then you can just simply place your build here, 1 peg. So now you know that's going to be lined up to the track right above it, perfectly centered. And, you know, you can even kind of visually validate that if you want. And then, folks, from there, everything's going to be centered, at least for now. I'll just go ahead and start laying foundation. The dynamics. And I don't think it matters which way you go, but I'm going to follow my design exactly, just in case there's something to this. You know, I don't want to break it so soon. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and put that there, and then 1 on either side. And sometimes these don't place right, so you have to look at them, you know, make sure they're all perfectly flush this way, and then make sure they're all kind of flush this way. So I'm good to go. These are all lined up beautifully. And as you can see, I've got that support base now. So basically, to drop this when the time comes, all we got to do is pop that beam right there. Carriage will drop. Alright, guys, it's all about redundancies. So, you know, getting back to blocking and bracing, what I'm going to do is just go ahead and use this. And guys, these are all free builds, by the way. None of this is going to be any funny builds that you have to buy, you know, separate. This is all straight up Lego Fortnite free builds. So yeah, that little 2x that I'm using right now, that's a wall piece. I like to use wood to keep the build light. You use concrete, they start getting a little bit too much. And then you know, you'll have track breakage. It's just not a good day. So yeah, wooden builds all the way. And you got to limit the builds too. You can't go crazy with a bunch of cosmetics. So basically, I just got the platforms and the chairs, because any, you know, going too much above and beyond that was causing issues with breakage. Alright guys, so we're going to center this little half wall now. Bam, bam. Just like that. So far so good. You're out away from the track. Oh, and be careful that none of these builds are going to connect the track to the dynamics. As soon as you connect something external to a solid build, tires can pop. And that just ruins your whole day. So a little safety tip there. Make sure anything you place isn't going to, you know, the game isn't going to connect movable builds to the solid builds. Alright guys, let's go to floor pieces next. And I like to use the sugi, whatever those are called. Sugi. And what we're going to do is just simply place, again, just following my design exact here. So what we're going to do is kind of center this, but not. So what I'm going to try to do here is just kind of show you. That's just now covering the build, and then we're going to go up one more bump and then over on either side. So that's what that should look like, just slightly off center, you know, sticking to the outside here. You got that one bump all the way around on the other three sides. Rinse, lather, and repeat. Okay, just like that. Just kind of mimicking the other build here. We're going to go 3 now. And again, centered. 1, 2, 3. Oops. Hate when that happens. I knew it was going to be a problem doing this live because, you know, when you're editing, you can, you know, push the little speed up button and get through this, you know, type of stuff a lot quicker. So unfortunately, this is probably going to be a longer tutorial. I'll try to get through it here as quickly as I can, however. And, you know, at least make sure the build is put together properly. Okay, just like that. So from here, we're going to go one bump over now. Just like that. And then from there, we're going to snap and go out 2 bumps. Just like that. And we're going to follow that exact same pattern on the other side. Bam, bam. So that's what we should be working with. And then from here, guys, exact same build. Only once again, we're going to kind of center this with the original structure, not with that jaggedy piece we put down. So just like that is what we should be looking at. We're going to have one more piece. Now going the opposite way. So now we're going to go backwards with that exact same idea. That's exactly what you should see now. Okay, and then one more time, we're going to center this one now with that original structure. So just like that to kind of finish it off. And then same kind of thing, only going down now. So we're going to center that and kick it out 1 bump. And that's going to be 3 builds. 1, 2, 3. Just like that. So it should look the same on either side. And that little mini build we put in the middle that connects all that should be right smack dab in the center of your track, and it is. So we are good to go. Okay guys, and exactly the same type of party over here. That's going to be centered. And, you know, both ways once you got 2 builds on here. So bam, bam. That's exactly what that should look like. I did it again. Sometimes, I don't know what it is, but when you snap, like left isn't left, left is right. Case in point. And then you got to place the build, and you're like, wait, that went the wrong way. You know, because this just happens too fast. You expect it to go one way, and it doesn't. Throws me off. Alright, so just like that. And again with the center. Bump, ba-bump, bump, bump. Oh, I did not do that right. Yeah, I did do that right. Okay, so yeah, we are symmetrical. Both sides look the same. I've got the upper builds. Good to go. Check, check, check. Alright, we got the clearance we need. Perfect. Alright guys, next thing we're going to have to do. Large powered tires, not steering tires. Straight up. Large powered wheel there. And there should be one point where that fits. And if you try to go up or down, it reds out on you. So that's my sweet spot there. And same thing that way. There should only be one spot that can possibly fit on it, and that's where you want to place your build. Now for some reason that didn't take, and it should have. There we go. So that's what that should look like from the back, and just to show you a good sight picture of that. And again, there should only be one green lit. Just like that. Actually, no, that's not right. Stand by. I want them closer together than that, so I might have to remove a build so I can squeeze this build in here. I might have done something out of order here. I did. Okay, so unfortunately, that's right. Because on the other design, I started with the bar that connects the two arms lower to the track, and that's what enabled the tires to go in there. So unfortunately, what we have to do now is place a build that we're only going to have in here temporarily. I kind of forgot to mention that until just now. So I'll use a shugi, you know, just something long enough that will keep all that together when I punch that build out from underneath. I am going to have to break the tire here first. Which is a good thing. You'll be able to see what I'm talking about a little bit better here. So yeah, just go ahead and use that one. And then, again, we want this to connect. Kind of overlap, I guess, so to speak. All those builds together so that I can punch this one out. Just like that. So again, that's a temporary build, folks. As soon as I get these tires on, we're going to fill that back in and then seal it on top with another build. And we're going to pop that one out from underneath. I mean, you can leave it there. You know, worst case scenario, it might just scrape the track and break off eventually anyway. So if you forget to do that, no harm, no foul. Okay, again, now the tire should go exactly where I want. Right there. So you might actually have two greenlit spots here if you go left and right. So we want the one snugger to that piece we just dropped. You want these tires to be as close as possible, especially if you're going to have aggressive curves in your track. That's why that matters. So that's why it's kind of worth just a little bit extra pain there to make sure you get that place build. So now what we can do, for some reason, you know, this is a pet peeve of mine with Lego Fortnite. It's like you have to break stuff to put stuff there that goes there anyway. So I don't know why they make it difficult. You know, maybe that'll be a fix one day. Time will tell. Alright, so going back to Sugi. Now this is going to be basically like a sealant build on top. And it's going to connect all these builds. Again, this way, if anyone underneath fails, the idea is that'll, you know, survive and the build won't completely fall down. And, you know, worst case scenario, if it does, it does. As long as one of the two arms are still on the track, you know, you can balloon it and get it back up to where it needs to go. Alright, so I'm going to actually equip my torch because it's turning nighttime, which I don't have one. Let's go ahead and build one. And I'm not super familiar with where that would be. I must be spacing right over it because, you know, it's such an obvious item. Oh, there it is. Of course, I could have just broken a balloon real quick. Alright, so just to show you how I pop that build out now. Oh, it got dark again. Actually, stand by. Campfire time. Those light up the world better anyway. Alright, let's show that build one more time here. Okay, there's that out from under. Again, you can leave it. You know, if it breaks, it breaks. It doesn't harm anything. But you can see now that cavity I just created. Nice, wide open space. And you need it, because when this thing really starts banking around again on those more aggressive curves, those builds up there start dipping into the track, and that's where your damage starts happening. Again, guys, the old design didn't do it, but there was an update somewhere along the way where it just really started causing the problems between derailment and damage. Alright, folks, so enough jibber-jabber about that. I'm going to do the exact same thing over here. Actually, I did not get that over to the right enough. I didn't think that looked quite right. There we go. Perfect. Pop our tires on. Make sure they're snug. Okay, and before you forget, we're going to direction these things. So forward is that way for me. So that's good. That is not. Good. Not. Alright. Rock and roll. Don't forget to replace those fill-in builds there. It's actually kind of tough to see without my torch. Stand by. I guess I put my torch away when I place builds. That's unfortunate. Alright, I can see good enough though. Perfect. Alright guys. Just about halfway there, we're real close here. So now what we gotta do is start placing more tires. And guys, it's not gonna make sense. But it's what's working right now. So we're gonna go for these little tires, and you're gonna have to be real creative here on how we place these now. And honestly, I can't remember the steps. It's one of those things where you have to like put them in the right order or they red out on you. So those pinch points that we have coming in from either side, they're gonna line up completely flush with that and go outsides of those as far as they will go. So make sure the flat part of that, see how like the right hand side of that little connecting piece is angled and the left hand side of that connecting piece is flat. We want that flat side to be facing the coaster. So just like that. And again, we're going to put that as far as it'll go on both sides. So boom, boom. Go ahead and flip that around the other way for the other side. And my big hit is in the way. Stand by. Okay, just like that. So same type of deal, guys. Oh, no, it's the wrong way. There we go. Okay, so same type of thing. As far as it'll go on either side. Boom. Boom. So look at them. Make sure they all look lined up and symmetrical. Make sure they're as far as they can go on the build I placed them on. Perfect. And what that's going to do now is pinch the track. And believe it or not, these connector pieces seem to hold it without, you know, you would think it would just bang around and break right off. But it kind of acts like part of the tire, so we're safe. At least for now. Again, there's an update coming. We'll have to, you know, see if it's going to be another party. I might be on here live again next week, you know, building a new coaster. Alright, GTG, good to go. Alright folks, we are not ready to drop the track yet. Now we need one simple tire. Well, actually more than one. But what we're going to do is place this right on top of those other ones we just put down. Oops. And this is kind of tricky because you can't really see what you're doing. You'll have to put that cursor somewhere on the top of that build. And you don't want the tire in the build. You want it outside of the build, just like that. And again, guys, as far out as it'll go on either side. Do the same thing on the other side here. Again, got to line that up as far out as it'll go on all quarters. Okay, so just to show you what we should be looking at, they should be lined up with the ones we put down here. Good to go. Good to go. Okay, repeat on the other arm. Just like that. Okay, perfect. Now we're still using free builds here, folks. The only thing I might do with, you know, purchase or DLC builds as they call them, I might do some cosmetic stuff, but not in this tutorial. That'll come, you know, another time. Alright folks, we are now ready to drop the coaster, but before we do, I'm gonna, you know, check my work here. Make sure I don't have to, you know, stick a bunch of balloons on the thing to fix something silly. Okay, we'll put these tires on last, these side tires here. That's what helps kind of clear it through the support arm builds. Yeah, I think we're ready to drop coaster, so let's go ahead and do that. So just to show you, that's what it should look like right now on the track. You can see the wheels are pinching the track now nice and snug, but there's still a little clearance there at the same time. But it's not a big gap, you know, that's pretty tight there. Okay, so just like that. Now these upper tires, you might not think there's a point there, but again, when the coaster starts getting into some of these banks, those are critical, folks. That's really going to help protect these builds. Not all the time, you know, you'll see that damage come from time to time, but if you don't have them out like that, or they're in at all, as you know, yours truly found out one night, forgot to put the tires on there, just started breaking. It's terrible. Alright, from here, lower tire assembly. We're going to use this bad boy. Now what I like to do is even this build out with the top of these wall pieces we put down. So just like that. It's exactly what you want. Okay, again, make sure that's not going to connect to any other builds there. And I got daylight again. Let's get rid of the Alright folks, this is kind of tricky now. You got to get the spacing on these tires right. I've been off by one peg. And it broke and derailed. So what we got to do now is line these up with the tires right above them. And to do that, it's going to be, you know, farthest point on either side here. Now this is going to dig into the build a little bit. Notice that that tire kind of looks like it's inside that build, and that's okay. It'll still do its job. It's just a bumper pad, basically. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to really serve any other purpose. In other words, it doesn't have to spin. So as soon as you get those first two tires down, we're just going to go ahead and do 4 more like that, spaced to where they're not overlapping each other. You know, there's a space there, but still as far out as they'll go on either side. So, dun-da-dun-da-da. Then if you do that right, these outer more tires here will be lined up with the tires above it. And of course now it's hard to see again. So that's what you should be looking at. Now I kind of boo-booed here. It's not one of these big builds. It's actually 3 smaller builds. So I'm going to have to go fix that other side too. My bad. And that's probably just adding time to the video here, so apologies. Okay, so once you got, you know, that in the right spot, just go ahead and slap 2 more on there. So if you have it going all the way out with the one build, which I'd prefer, because, you know, it's less numbers of builds, a lot of times those hit some of these support arms I've got, especially when the coaster's banking. So, you know, unfortunately, I got to put them down this way. Alright, folks, so same type of party with the tires here. Make sure they're digging into the build here. And then that they're not digging into each other here. Perfect. So now you can kind of get a good visual on how exactly this thing holds the track. So we got that nice and encased. We are good. Go back to your simple tire here. Now this one's going to go on this outermost, you know, piece to make sure that these tires, you know, help with clearing those support arms. So those are going to kind of go upper more. As long as your white cursor is on that outer more build. You don't want it down here. You want it up here as high as it'll go. And again, as far out as they'll go on either side here. So that's about what you should be cooking with. And then bottom one, that time it's going to go on the upper more. So as high as it'll go now. But again, on the outsides. So they should all be lined up. And now you can see exactly how that's going to clear that support arm. Alright folks, rinse, lather, and repeat. We're almost there, guys. Almost there. I actually have 0 watching right now. I know it's super late. You know, I kind of figured I'd only have a viewer or 2. I didn't know it was going to be 0, so apparently this is probably going to be more of a recorded live type of tutorial. Which is cool. Either way, as long as I get the information out there, I am happy. Yeah, it's like after midnight. It is... Whoa, it's 1:30 in the morning. That gives you guys a pretty good indication of how hard I've been working on this roller coaster. Wowzers. Alright, so there you go. Rinse, lather, and repeat. Other side. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Brace tires. Okay, I want to check my work before we actually, go anywhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright. I feel pretty confident I got the tire spacing right. So from underneath, everything should look like it's now hugging the track on the upper part. And then down here we should have a nice wide berth now for the track. And make sure those are all spaced right on both sides, because as soon as you run the coaster, like say I place these tires wrong here and they're too far in, that's going to start breaking pretty quick. So, if you start having a bunch of damage and you've already restarted the game, restarted your machine and you're still getting damage, take another look at your tire spacing. I found that out earlier, by the way. I kept breaking a coaster and I was like, what am I doing wrong? It took me a while to figure it out. I had the tire spacing wrong up here. Alright, so, thrusters, guys. It's almost time. This is when it gets real. So what I like to do is as far down as this will go on this build and as far out as it'll go, I like to put a thruster, whoops, there, and all the way over here, and then 2 back in. So that's where I like this one to go. That's where I like that one to go. And then you'll want 5 on the bottom here. Now again, guys, the more speed, the more damage prone it's going to be. Especially if you're doing a lot of curves, and especially if those curves are real aggressive. So I have tried adding more thrusters, but it felt like it was just pushing the carriage a little too hard, and it was more damage prone. I was getting a lot of damage markers popping up. So this is kind of where I found the sweet spot to be, 7 thrusters each way. It's a good speed. It kind of feels like a legit roller coaster. It has the sway to it and the banks. And I think it's a good, healthy balance between speed, damage prevention, and so on. Alright, folks, go ahead and rinse, lather, and repeat. I'm hungry. Pretty sure Arby's is closed. I do have ice cream in the fridge, but it's 1:30 in the morning. I am not going to eat Arby's or ice cream at 1:30 in the morning. Alright, folks, the next thing... Oh, I almost forgot a couple of thrusters there. And same type of deal, as far down as it'll go. As far out as it'll go here. And then 2 back in on this one. So what I like to do is whatever my forward motion is, which is that way, and you can tell by the way I have the seats facing. Again, make sure the tires, guys. I almost forgot that step earlier. These little tires you place, those have to be going the same direction too. So it's the ones on this side usually that I have to switch over. We're going to go and do that right now. Wait. No, I had that right. It's the other side. I think. I normally do this before I drop it. I just spaced on it. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so these are the sides you're going to have to change over. Just like that. I already checked the top tires. I did break a couple of tires, so I'm going to go back and make sure those are going the right direction here. Awesome, awesome. Awesome, awesome. Alright, folks. That's it. So now to channel this thing out, the forward thrust, or the forward direction to me, is the default channel. So that should be channel 3. That is the A button on my Xbox. So, right trigger and A button is going to send the carriage forward. And then I like to channel the other ones out so that my B button, I think, sends it back the other way with my left trigger. So you got to use the powered wheels and the thrusters in tandem. And guys, that was part of the thing I was missing with all those coaster designs I kept trying to come up with. I was just using the simple tires. Once I, just got tired of trying the same thing over and over again with no different result, then I was like, I wonder if power wheels would make a difference. I don't see why, but I've tried everything else. And then, oh my god, it held the track. And my brain exploded. Now, this wasn't the first prototype. There's been many coasters since, but at least I got it functioning. Alright guys, so now that should be ready to rock and roll. That should be a good solid coaster. Now, unfortunately, to get that through here, I'm going to have to either bust this or, just drive it out of the way. And then we can come back here and kind of finish putting, builds on it, whatever we want to do, chairs, etc. I might try to match it to this one because this is my running coaster, and I want to make sure the weight is right. Notice, too, I've got some tire builds down here. And I can't get those on there because I'm underwater right now. But when this thing gets up high enough, I'll place those as well. And those are important for the stations. Otherwise, they'll just crash right into your stations. Okay, so going forward is a combination of A button and right trigger. Now you can just use thrusters, but it's not going to go very fast. And on the inclines, it's probably not going to make it up the incline. Likewise, if you're using no thrusters and just the powered wheels, again, it might go, but it's not going to make it up the incline. So in order to get it really going, you're going to have to use the thrusters in tandem with the powered wheels there. And see, guys, on these nice casual curves here, it's not really taking the damage. And just to kind of show you what I mean by nice casual curves, so notice these builds here. So for the track, those are halfway, on top of the build next to it. At some point when I want to level that off a little bit, then it's not exactly centered anymore. It's only 2 nudges down. And then I do that for quite a few builds. So it's not real aggressive. You see there's a nice long incline there before it changes over from one to the other. So what I mean about getting more aggressive, and so far the limit I found is 5 builds, folks. So I'll just show you real quick what I'm talking about here. So let's say, I want this to go up. So what you have to do is just kind of start soft. Start it easy. Bump that thing out, center it, whatever you got to do. And that's only 1 nudge now up. So what I'll do is 5 is the minimum. This is the most aggressive, folks, that you can make this go. Now, I have gone 2 nubs at a time, and as long as you're not curving the track, you can get away with that. Not to say it won't cause extra damage here and again, but, as long as it's not curved and it's just a good straightaway and you really need to get good, tight elevation, you can get away with making this more aggressive. You might have to run the coaster through it a few times and kind of find where that hard line is. But if you want a good, safe bet, 5 builds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bam. So now from there, I would go up 2. And then 5 builds, going up, just those 2. So just like that. And then, if you need to keep going, you can go a little higher. Now you can go 3, which is halfway, cutting the build in half. But same thing, I'm going to go 5 builds. And you guys are starting to get the idea now. Again, this is, as far as I know, especially if you're banking, the most you'll be able to get away with. And that's going to be rough on it too, by the way. This is really going to make it damage prone when you're trying to bank this. Depending on how aggressive that bank is going to be. If you need to go even steeper from here, you can keep going. I've made this as steep as it'll go with, only 1 nudge down. It's rough on the coaster. It makes it, it has to kind of chug. Puff and puff a little bit, but it makes it. So yeah, you're getting the idea. So just keep going, 5 at a time. And then to level it off again, you just go in reverse order. So then, say I had it like that. At some point, then I'd start bringing it back down to the halfway point, build 5 builds. Then I'd bring it back down to where it was only 2, 5 more builds, etc. Okay, it's super dark right now, and it's going to be hard to see what I'm trying to show you. So I'm going to get to the banks here in just a moment. I just kind of wanted to show you how to put those builds down. Oh, here's another thing about, speaking of the devil. This is tough. So going up is easy. It lets you nudge. It lets you nudge one at a time. When you're trying to go down, it's not going to be that type of party. So I'm going to have to put a campfire down here so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Alright, I think these will probably show up better. So if we're trying to go down, you know, downgrade, that's going to be tough because it will not let you nudge one at a time going down. It actually won't let you nudge at all going down. You see it, you know, that cursor slips right off the build there, and I can't keep nudging down. Which really irritates me about Fortnite. I wish they would, you know, give us a mechanic for that. But whatever, you know, we got to be creative. So then what I do, and you know, if you're doing this in survival, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to stack the blocks. But you're going to have to, you know, kind of make your own, nudge point there. So you're going to have to put, you know, 4 or 5 of these or so down. And then what you can do from here is now you can nudge that build out, and then you'll be able to nudge it down that one. Oh no, you can't do that yet. That's right, the uppermost build, it will not let you. See how it's kind of popping down too? I don't know why they do this to us, guys. It drives me absolutely bat crap. So the way I work around that is I go down another build, and then I nudge at 1. Whoops, my build just totally fell off the track there. So now I can nudge it 1 down. Oh no, I can't. That's right, you cannot do these builds. You have to use a wall piece. Stand by. I forgot survival. Normally I put the Lego or the sandbox build down that's taller, and then you don't have that issue. But in survival, you're going to have that issue. So you're going to have to place like a little 1x or something. You know, it doesn't really matter which one you use as long as it's flush. So, you know, you use a granite build, one of the castle builds or something. Okay, now you can make this work. So we're going to go ahead and pop back over. Whoops. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just kind of line that back up the same way, you know, nudge it over to where it's flush. And now you should be able to play with that. But again, on the upper build, it still won't work. It'll pop down to. So my workaround for that is you got to go down 1 more, and then you can nudge 1. So now you see it's nudged down 1. Then I can place a build on top of that. And unfortunately, guys, that's just the way you're going to have to do it. It's time consuming to go down. It's a lot quicker to go up. So some of my builds I've actually built backwards just so I could, you know, put the build up and, you know, not have to spend all this time doing this one nudge business. Now, as soon as you go a little bit more aggressive in the decline, and you can nudge it down too, easy peasy. You just put another block down there, you know, it goes down 2 automatically, you're golden. But, you know, just that 1 nudge at a time, that's going to be the challenge with that wall build. And guys, you can do that, you know, out quite a few. I think you can get 4 or 5 builds on there from that 1 nudge point. And you don't have to do 2, just that first one to get it going. But yeah, what you can do then is kind of play off the one under it. You know, do that 1 at a time that way. You can come down 1 nudge, bump it back, come down 1 nudge, bump it back. So see, I'm getting quite a few builds placed that way. So it helps speed it up a little bit. But, you know, if you're doing a big build, you're going to find that it gets super tedious super quick. Got to keep that park maintenance going, guys. You know, I start doing a lot of experimenting. I leave all these builds all over the place, and then all of a sudden there's build limit all over again, and I realize there's like 50 just random builds laying around that I have to go out and break. That's a great time. Alright, folks, so back to our roller coaster. I am going to get this thing out of the way so that I can run the one we just built and make sure it's actually working right like we want it to. So let's go ahead and get this build completely out of the way. And if you're doing this in sandbox, don't seat while you're flying. I realize that can cause a glitch at times. So again, you got to use the powered wheels in tandem with the thrusters, and you see it's a decent speed there. Matter of fact, it's going to start getting a little bit glitchy because I got a lot of builds coming up that have to render. There it goes. But as soon as I make this bank here, that'll get a lot better. There's no builds on the east side of the park yet. We're going to use that to our advantage. Art of War Gaming Clan. Hey! I'm sorry, I didn't see my chat there. I had my OBS covering that window, and then I saw a viewer on. I was like, oh, wow, hi! Sorry I missed you. It looks like you just logged off there. If you're watching the recording, I'm sorry I missed you, man. Like I said, it was covered up. I didn't see any viewers for the longest, so I just kind of spaced on it. It would have been cool to chat with you, though, for sure. Alright guys, there's a damage point, and that's okay, like I said. I've ran this thing, you know, 7 to 8 times back and forth trying to intentionally break a build so I could record, like, the repair process, and I just couldn't get one actually break. So, ignore the damage until you can't ignore the damage anymore. And I just realized I totally forgot to block and brace the other coaster. So before I go to test drive that sucker, hopefully I'll remember to put those builds down. Good thing I talked about it beforehand. You know, I banked that, you know, speaking of, you know, the way the track is set up, this is a real good aggressive spot to show you. So I had this steep hill right here, and this is another thing that just peeves me about Fortnite, is these giant trees, they don't regrow. Once, you know, lightning strikes that and it breaks, it's gone forever. It just really, really sucks. So I had a big tree right here, and the canopy, like, opened up just enough to let this track through. It was super, super cool. As a matter of fact, my original roller coaster video shows that tree is still there. And it was perfect. But again, I had to get super, super aggressive here with this incline. And guys, that was a challenge to get that right. But you can see I reduced the number of builds that went down. So I only went 3 at a time on the 1 nudge. Then I went 3 at a time on the 2, 3 at a time on the 3. And again, I just got real, real aggressive here in that decline, and you see it's like 4 nudges down now at one point. And then I go to 5. It won't go any steeper then. I tried and it just starts, you know, causing problems with the build. Now, maybe now with the new, you know, way I have the tire cage designed, maybe it will go steeper. Now to build that, you know, because you can't connect one to the other, you're going to have to place a dummy build under that. Then you can place a build next to that and then break that build out from under it, and that one magically will stay there. Even though it actually looks like it shouldn't, because it's not really connected to anything anymore. But the 2 corners of those 2 builds will still touch, and I guess that counts. So like I said, if you need to get more aggressive in your track, you know, you can give that a shot and see what happens. But that's why I did it again, so I can use that tree as an aesthetic. And it was just really, really cool when that tree was there. I don't really have any aggressive curves here. I've actually already kind of driven through that. I'll try to point that out next time when I run the other coaster. For right now, I really just kind of want to get this one out of the way. Let's go ahead and do that. Matter of fact, if I get the second coaster working real good, you know, I might just go ahead and drive this one right into the lake. I don't think the track quite makes it to the lake, because I broke that build, you know, to accommodate my river rafting ride. So, yeah, we'll have to maybe extend the track a little bit so I can make that a glorious wipeout for the carriage, but I'll show you that track where I cut it off. So yeah, the roller coaster was the first thing here. All the other rides and stuff came later. Well, I thought it'd be really cool to have the coaster like skim the river the whole way, and it was awesome. But then, you know, I built the river rafting ride, and I wasn't thinking about the coaster going through there. So yeah, they just collided, and it was bad. So yeah, if I want to do that in glorious fashion, I'm going to have to extend this track out, which is okay. In fact, maybe I'll just go ahead and do that now since I'm talking about it. And then if I want to run that coaster, I will. It's super quick and easy to do. Another thing too, guys, is when you're doing a lot of banking with your track, that adds to your build limit. So the number of builds counts. It's not build space, it's number of builds. Because the game has to think about, and remember, okay, this is the build that was placed, this is how many of the build that was placed, this is where their locations are placed, this is what they're connected to, etc. So the fewer the builds you've got, the better off you'll be, where a build limit is concerned. Okay, I don't think that's going to really wipe out into the lake. I might actually wipe out into another build there, and that would not be cool. I could bank the track real quick and show you that. Why not? Okay, so getting back to, you know, the lesser aggressive the curves, the better. So another way kind of around doing this one at a time, so my more aggressive curves go like this. You know, I just immediately start going into this one peg space, and you can, whoops, and you can elevate these too, by the way. So if if you wanna go on a bank and say elevate, you can do that. There's my one nudge up, and then you go one. You rinse, lather, and repeat that. You go one. One nudge up. Okay, so now you can see that's not only curving, but it's also elevating. Now you can actually, you know, make that go more aggressive. So from here, I can go 2 nudges now and still, you know, elevate that. And I don't think my spacing is right on that build, but you guys got the point. Down 1, over 1, right about there. Okay, now again, you'd have to do at least 5 builds. That's my hard limit, you know, for my track designing purposes. You know, I'm comfortable going 5 builds at a time before I do another change in bank, or before I do another change in elevation, whether that be up or down. So what I'll do is actually just go ahead and kind of show you that since I'm talking about it, and actually make a workable banking track here that also elevates. Okay, so I just now started going up. Oh, actually, before I get that far, I wanted to show you guys the gentler banking. So then what you want to do is we're going to go... You can either go 3 at a time, or no, 2 at a time. So, you know, if you want to go... Actually, if you want to go as soft as possible, I'll show you the whole kit and caboodle here. So what I would do is do that. 1 nudge over on the big build. And you should only have to go about 8 builds out. So that should be long enough. So basically what I'm doing here is the entire coaster, the front tires, before they hit the next change, the back tires are getting through the first part of that change. So imagine the coaster being here. The front tires are going to be right about here. The rear tires are going to be right about here. That's kind of how you want to space that, and that's why I say the 5 build is the hard limit, because you start running into where the front build is hitting another change before the back build has even caught up to the change it just got off of, if that makes more sense. So, hey, Art of War Gaming Clan, if that's you, sorry I missed you earlier. I might have my my chat window covered up there. All right, guys, so that's, you know, a good start to a nice, comfortable... nice, easy curving track there. So now from there, you can go 1 more bump and do 3 builds. So you're probably going to start getting an idea here now how that you know, really makes a good, gentle curving track here. And I might go, you know, 1 more out here. Whoops. And then from there, you know, I would tighten that a little bit more. So I would go over 1 and then 2 builds. Over 1, 2 builds. And do that in a little while. Just like that. Then when you're, you know, comfortable, that's a good enough deal. Now you can go down to 1 build. And again, 5 is the absolute tightest I'm going for me and my design purposes on this curve. So now what I'm going to do is get real aggressive. So see how that makes kind of a real nice, and it's a gradient curve. So, you know, it doesn't just take off right into the curve. That's going to cause the coaster to just kind of do a real nice, easy start of a turn and then kind of get more and more aggressive as it goes. Now, you don't have to do this. This is just if you want a nice, comfortable, curving monorail system for like a survival world, and you don't need all this aggressive banking going on. You know, that would be the way I would recommend doing that. All right, guys, once it gets into this, you know, again, if you want a nice, easy... curving system, I wouldn't go 5. That's going to cause damage. You know, I'm doing this for roller coaster purposes. I want a nice tight track. Now, unfortunately, I won't be able to drive the coaster over here. It's going to smash right into this build. You know, it hangs down too low here, but at least you'll get the idea as far as the curving track goes. Okay, so again, roller coaster purposes, 5 builds. If you want something more stable for the roller coaster, you're going to want to do this 10 times before you know, introduce another curve. So I'll just go ahead and do, you know, the gentler approach here for now. Okay, so now I got 10 builds in that row. So now if you want, you know, from there, if you need to keep the curve going, go over 2 builds. And again, guys, you're going to lay 10 of these for a nice easygoing curve. If you want something more aggressive, you can bump that down to 5 builds. Okay, now I'm not going to place all 10, you know, it's going to start getting time consuming. Then from there, guys, it's 3. I did not go over 3. Okay, so that's how you start, you know... Oh, wait, my buttons. I have to slow down here a little bit and make sure it's getting all the nudges. Okay, so again, 10 builds for a nice, you know, gentle experience. You can get away with as little as 5. And that'll, you know, get the coaster around. Okay, now here's where it gets tricky. Getting back to what I was showing you guys with the elevated builds, you're going to have to place dummy builds now to make this, you know, keep going. If you needed to curve around to a 90-degree bend. So what I like to do then, you know, is make sure you're going to have the 10 or the 5 that are remaining in a zigzag pattern. I'm about to run into a tree here, so I'm going to cut it off early. But then once you're done, and don't forget to break these builds back out, because I tried to run a coaster through and I totally forgot that step, and it smashed right into these and completely exploded. So, you know, once you get those builds out as far as you need to go, then you can bust out those dummy builds. And you can see those builds now are staying in place. So from here, guys, once you got your 5 to 10 builds going out, at a minimum, then you can start going back the other way in backwards order. So now we're going to do the 3 nudges over. You know, as many as you need to go. 5 to 10, you know, longer if you need. And then, you know, keep going in reverse order. So now we're down to 2. You guys are getting the idea. Then when you got the builds placed that you need, go down to 1. You know, get your builds placed. And then from there, you know, you can kind of smooth the curve back out the way we did it before in reverse order. I'll show you how I would do that real quick. So then I would go, you know, 2 builds. 1, 2, over 1. 2, over 1. 2, over 1. Then I might go 3, you know, over 1 and then 3. Over 1. 3. And then you can bump it back up to 4. And again, I'm going to run into a tree here, so I'm going to cut it off early. But that's how you make the track any kind of curve you want. You can make that curve as gradient as you want. You can make that track elevate and, you know, up and down in elevation there as it's curving. And I'll show you guys some of those demos, you know, off to the side here. I'm kind of half tempted to just make a real aggressive curve here so it does dump into the lake. I just don't think I can with the amount of real estate I've got without, you know, redesigning this entire curve. So yeah, for right now, we'll just go ahead and call it. This is for tutorial purposes anyway. For right now, I just want to get back, get my other coaster we just put together, and see if that works. Not sure who's watching right now, but thanks for being a night owl with me. This roller coaster tutorial has been a long time coming, and you know, I've done a couple of recordings now, and I didn't like the way they came out. I kept doing builds wrong, so I thought, you know what, I just need to do it live so I can get it down. And this way, you know, if the update blows it up again in a few days here, then maybe I'll just go in and redesign it and actually do a chopped up video, you know, much shorter version. Alright guys, so the one thing I forgot to do over here, as I mentioned before, is block and brace this sucker. So before we run it, just in case I incur damage, we're going to think ahead a little bit so we do not have to rebuild the entire machine. And now, of course, I can't see what I'm doing. Okay, so now this should line up and snap perfectly with one of these earlier builds we placed. So just like that. It's exactly what you should be looking at, and then these two should fit right in. So now both of those arms are connected. In case there's any breakage over here whatsoever, that holds the arms and the rest of the coaster together. And then you got to do the same thing on the other side in case those over arms break. Uh-oh. That's not good. Sometimes the game can count that as being attached. And that can pop tires and all sorts of bad stuff there. So what I'm going to do is actually move this coaster away from this arm build. and try that again. Perfect. And again, that should snap right in there. And everything should be nice and snug. Okay, so now even if all of these crossover beams fail, this part will not just completely break off and fall into the ocean. That build connected to that build will hold that side up, and that's huge. That's absolutely huge, especially if this thing takes any damage. Okay guys, now I'm not going to place extra builds on it yet. I just want to run the thing to make sure it actually works. We're going to do that right now. Just so we can see what in the heck we're doing. Okay, and again, you got to use powered in tandem with thrusters, otherwise it really won't get enough get up and go. Okay, these are the more calm and gentle curves, guys, so you can see I'm really not chewing up damage here. It's a nice, smooth running roller coaster. It's going at a good speed. It handles the banks beautifully. It's going to be noisy. I'm telling you right now, it's a nightmare with the noise. I don't understand why Fortnite has to have that just terrible, terrible freaking crunching sound. I don't know what else to call it. You know, especially when builds aren't taking damage. In my mind, if I hear that terrible crunching sound, then I should know something got damaged somewhere, you know, to prompt me to look at it or whatever. See, I don't know, just that's one of my pet peeves. Okay, now guys, I'm about to get into more aggressive curves, and I wanted to show you this. To kind of show you like the spacing. Uh-oh. Put the back thrusters off there so it gets going here. But I just kind of wanted to get this thing back. Oh yeah, and I'm supposed to slow down before entering this. I haven't quite redesigned that yet with the new coaster. So, you know, I probably have to drop this a little bit, the ramp tires here, so it doesn't get hung up like that. So for now, I am supposed to actually slow that down a little bit before it hits those tires, but right now I just don't care about that. I want to show you guys the aggressive curves. So here's a good example of a curving track that's aggressive, that also goes down in elevation while it's curving. So you can see I kind of started the descent first, and then I went into the curving pieces. So that goes down 2 nudges now at a time. So again, this is a real aggressive descent and bank at the same time. But same type of, you know, thought process. One nudge at a time initially, then 2 nudges at a time, you know, to make it more aggressive curve. And guys, it just keeps going from there. Then I kind of start bringing it back in, you know, and this is a real aggressive curve here. So just wanted to, you know, make sure I showcase that. And again, guys, you know, to accommodate the trees, real aggressive on the downslope here. And then again, real aggressive, you know, to level it back off. Yeah, I've had a coaster or 2 derail here in this spot, because not only that, but then the curve, the S curve here gets super, super aggressive. I think I went even less than 5 builds here at a time. I was really trying to test the limits of the coaster, and I really wanted to know how sharp could I make the curve and still get away with it. Well, I think that magic number actually was 5. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it was 5. So if I went down to like 3 or 4 builds at a time, it was too tight of a curve. The coaster just kind of like hit a build and stopped right in its tracks. It was terrible. So again, if you're going to be aggressive in the roller coaster design, guys, just remember the 5 build is about the tightest you're going to be able to get away with in the bank. I actually completely skipped a step over here again. You know, I was trying to accommodate the trees, the natural building that was here. So I needed to bank the S-curve back the other way quickly, so I didn't have the dummy builds in the checkerboard pattern. I actually went 1 bump this direction, and then I switched over to 1 bump that direction. You can see this build right here is the one in between these 2. So you talk about getting real aggressive in the curve. I've had a derailment here or 2, you know, again, just testing the limits of the track. Alright guys, so what I want to do now is run the coaster that we just built through this aggressive part of my roller coaster just to see how it performs. I'll try to actually show the coaster while it's transitioning here. So you can see it usually makes it through that one pretty quick. It kind of got hung up there. You see a damage spot. See how, you know, it took a hit there, but it didn't break. It didn't blow up. Oops. Yeah, that happens sometimes. I don't understand why, and I honestly think it's because I don't have all the chair builds and stuff down yet. Because that adds weight. So, uh-oh. Danger, Will Robinson. What just happened here? Looks like I jumped track. Okay, yeah, so slamming into that made the rear end jump track here. I might be able to get away with fixing this. Actually, I can fix it one way or another. It's either going to retrack itself or I can break a tire or something and retrack it that way. Unfortunately, sometimes once the tires get mixed in with the track builds, that happens until there's a gradient change. So you saw as I backed up there off the straight tracks, and as soon as it hit that next grade in the bank, that tire popped out of the build. It's just one of those weird things, folks. So again, this is going to bank a little harder, so yeah, I might hit a support beam or two on the way, but that's why. Okay, I'm really hoping I can actually break a build here, because I really want to show the repair process in the live tonight. So I'm just going to try to run this thing pretty hard, you know, and not slow down when I know I should. Just to see if I can't get a build to break. So folks, oh, there it goes. Perfect. It wasn't the build I wanted broken. Okay, well, unfortunately, that's an easy fix. That's not what I was going for. I was going for something else up here, top side. The tires to break off, or one of these builds supporting the tires to break off. Unfortunately, this bottom tire build is just real easy to put back on, so I'll just go ahead and do that real quick. Then maybe I can break another build as I continue to run the coaster. But guys, as you can see, it's working. The one we just built, it's running right, you know. I'm being aggressive with it with curves. I've showed you guys ways to design the track where, you know, this won't be an issue for you. You'll be able to just kind of smooth sail it, you know, and get through. And this hit this, by the way, which happens. I'm supposed to slow down here. I just didn't. Okay, looks like everything else is intact. Just wanted to double check that. And guys, I'm almost done here. So we can make sure those are lined up with the littles right above them. Okay, good, good. A couple more just like that, and then those should line up with the littles above it. Oh, that did not place. Hope I don't have to punch that tire off to place it. Okay, I made a boo-boo there. That tire isn't lined up right. That one's got to be spaced right, or the other ones will not fall into place like they should. Alright, now we're cooking. Okay, these are pretty aggressive too, so there's some more build damage. Actually, no, that's old build damage, disregard. So yeah, that's it, guys. That kind of, you know, test run is complete. Now there's builds I haven't placed on here yet. I'll show you that as soon as I get somewhere where I can get underneath it. Uh-oh. Okay, and those builds are going to be regular tires once again. And this is just going to prevent damage from support arms and your stations, you know, platforms, whatever you're going to build around the coaster for, you know, getting on and off, boarding, etc. Okay, so just like that, all those should be nice and lined up now. So I'll show you exactly why those are important here as soon as we get back into my station here. You see nothing takes damage there. You can hit those hard, you can hit those full speed, it's not a problem. Not only that, but just to show you an aerial view, once you're in the station, This is what keeps the build from meshing into the side builds. So before I started putting those towers down, once in a while I would log in, and the dynamics would be like meshed into the wall builds next to it. But I have not had that happen as long as I remember to put those tire builds down underneath. Alright guys, so that's my new coaster. I'm not sure how I'm gonna demolish the old one just yet. Like I said, this won't exactly go right into the river, or the lake for that matter. I thought it was gonna be a nice glorious wipeout. But I don't know how long the stream has been going on now. The main thing was I wanted to show the build process of both the track and the coaster body, which it looks like we've done that. So anything else at this point would just be kind of like gravy, you know. And I want to try to keep the video brief. Anyway, so yeah, we'll just go ahead and call it here, guys. I'll just go ahead and blow this thing up however I decide to do it here when I get out far enough. But I'm kind of curious to see how far it'll go with that new track I just laid. So we're going to do that real quick. Again, I don't want this thing to slam into this other build, so unless it banks real good and avoids it, it's gonna hit it. Oh no, the rocks are in the way. Terrible. Okay, so yeah, I just can't do what I wanted. And to, you know, bank the track to where I can make it plop into the lake, that's gonna be very time consuming. So I guess I'll just go ahead and call it for now. Maybe I'll put some TNT barrels on there and just watch, you know, some 4th of July action. I don't know, whoever's watching, if you want to type me a quick comment and tell me how you want me to blow this thing up, I'd be happy to do it for you. Just for kind of hanging with me so late, definitely appreciate it. And since we're just kind of sitting here, you know, hanging out, if there's another ride you want me to show you real quick, I'd be happy to. Pretty cool riding some of these, if I'm being honest. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, I do have space to curve this track right into the lake. I just have to make, you know, quite a bit more aggressive on that curve there, excuse me. So this was a marker I put down because my original intent was to actually have the track go right through the fun park. And I wanted it to clear this bridge, and I wanted it to clear the heads of the people standing on the bridge. So, you know, I measured that out, and as you can see, my head just barely clears the bottom of that coaster, and I wanted it to do that on purpose. I wanted it to feel like people were getting shaved heads as that thing went by. I thought that would be just super, super cool. But the problem I'm having is build limit here. So if I put down a track going through the heart of this place, it automatically puts me back over build limit. So unfortunately, I can't do that anymore. But how cool would that have been? You know, having a roller coaster track just go all the way through the park, like under this bridge, through the other bridges. I just think that would have been super, super fun. Sadly, you know, with build limit, it just, you know, something else would have to go, and I'm just not willing to compromise another ride in the interest of that. At least not right now. You know, that might come in time, especially after this new update, if they're going to change the worlds around. You know, we might be building a new theme park somewhere else, and, you know, we might put the track down first, and then that way, you know, we already know things are hitting build limit long before that ever needs to be rebuilt. Alright, I'm not seeing any posts, so I'm just going to go ahead and call it, folks. You know, thank you so much for watching the tutorial. I really hope that helps you all out. And again, folks, I'm really just super sorry, you know, it's taken this long. I've just been, you know, I didn't want to put a video out and show you guys how to build a roller coaster that I knew was garbage, that I knew would break, that I knew wouldn't, you know, stay on the track, that I knew would derail immediately, that I knew would just be tons and tons of problems. So, you know, that's no fun gaming anymore. So, you know, at least with this design, we have now a workable design, pretty much guaranteed to stay on track. I've never derailed this one. Not to say you can't make that happen with some kind of crazy, you know, track design. You know, if you get real aggressive with the track, I'm sure you can make it derail somehow. But, you know, with this design that I'm laying out for you, it'll make it. You know, you might damage some builds here and there. Worst case scenario, you may break a build, but as long as it's blocked and braced the way I'm showing, you'll be good to go to just, you know, plop a new build down and continue on mission. So folks, again, thank you so much for watching. Please take a moment to like, share, subscribe, and comment. That is absolutely and always appreciated. And folks, on that note, you know, you've already given me your most valuable thing, which is your time. And guys, I love you for it. I appreciate you. Much, much love. So I would just have to ask you for a few more seconds of your time, you know, to mash that like button and share the video, you know, leave a comment, because that really helps, you know, the video rating be shown to more and more people. And guys, this is something that has had a lot of interest. So my videos don't tend to do very good, you know, so I will need your help to, you know, try to hopefully push this video out a little bit better than what my usual video would go out at. So again, guys, appreciate you. Thank you so much in advance if you're willing to help me out with that a little bit with a few more minutes of your time. And until the next time, guys, best of luck and happy hunting.